So Michael, Reghardt, and I finally left Cape Town to sail my sailboat across the Atlantic Ocean. The longest offshore passage for the two guys, and my shortest one for years sailing around the world, but the scariest because it was a new captain and a new crew. You know, I don't care if I had hired the most expensive, most experienced captain in the world. I think there's just no way that I would trust my boat 100% with anybody, no matter what. So, you know, with Patrick, I'd sailed with him for so long, and I knew he had as much interest in the boat as I did. But anybody else, and it doesn't really matter who, I'd be questioning. I'd be laying in bed questioning him. Just because it's not Patrick. It's just the way it is. Lots of boisterous downwind sailing, scary weather forecast 5 days out, and some crew dynamics that were, well, a bit quirky to say it nicely.
Cheers, guys.
See you on the other side.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the help this morning and for the send-off. Caribbean 2020. 23.
And just like that, Paul and Rachel were gone, and the three of us were on our own.
Just want to say thank you to you guys for coming out and helping on the dock. It was really great to have you there to wave us off. And ciao.
Let's sail up. Let's get this jalopy moving. Come on, they're blowing us away over there. They're already halfway to St Helena, and we're not even out of
I
table.
thought you were not racing. Tell me you're not fucking racing.
When you have two boats, it's a race.
I am so over racing. I'm jumping ship immediately.
There's two boats, it's a race unless you're losing.
I've always been a bit nervous of this kiss wind generator,
I mean, one little hair flies up, and that's the end.
that it might chop someone's head in half.
Don't put your head up. Don't wave. Don't have a momentary lapse of judgment.
Concentration.
It's still close enough. We can turn around if we have to.
6 knots. Yeah, baby. 6.1. Woohoo.
One of the many things that I was a little nervous about was using the monitor wind vane. I know how
Playing
to
with the
adjust
wind
course,
vane?
but I just wasn't sure if I had tied the lines right or set up the wind paddle the right way.
Left like that, we're going to go a bit to the right.
The guys had never used one, so together we had to figure it out and remind each other how to steer with it. We did get a brief tutorial on Fred's boat, which was really nice of him, but I didn't appreciate his attitude towards women or wind vanes. I know how to use it, I just don't know how to set it up from the
A
beginning.
lot of this stuff probably doesn't make sense to a woman. It's common sense. It just has to be centered, along with that being centered, for it to do what it's supposed to do. You understand that, right?
100. Yeah,
Okay, so
I do.
You know, 13 years of sailing with this wind vane, you'd think I'd know how to use it, and I do. On my watch, needing to change directions by 5 or 10 degrees, and I can do that, no problem. But beyond that, I've never dropped the paddle, I've never set up the wind vane in the beginning, I've never put the wind vane paddle on top, I've never set it up for a new course, and yes, shame on me. So that was a little bit of a challenge for this passage because none of us knew anything about the wind vane. I knew the most, which wasn't very much. So the guys were eager to try out their fishing prowess, so they went right to work. They had awesome luck, and soon there was not an inch of room left in the freezer and the frying pan, so we didn't fish anymore.
Pick him up and in here. Have you got alcohol?
Yeah.
Okay, here comes another one. Okay, anyone?
No, he's just having convulsions.
Oh, shame.
Yeah, this one we're going to give me that pliers if you can.
Where's the pliers?
Nice
Mike,
and clean.
so please tell us, what the hell is that?
Well, that's his stomach cavity. There's his guts.
What food did he eat?
The other little one, we got a baby swordfish out of his
Oh, wow.
out of his mouth. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Another one's on. Or
I
not.
thought we put that, we didn't even put it in the water.
Yeah, there's the hook.
Ah, every time he does that, there's blood spattering everywhere. Rebecca, why do you have to say about all this drama? Luckily, the blood and guts were sprayed all around the cockpit just once. I'm glad we caught all 3 fish within 5 minutes of each other. That's not as important.
Look, this is his breakfast.
Can't see, there we go. What the hell? A fish in a fish?
Yep.
I thought I'm starting my day off good, eating, drinking, brushing my teeth maybe. God knows.
A filleting board.
Cutting board.
Yeah.
Mike, what last words do you have to say before I enjoy my coffee?
Well, we'll bless this meal that we've caught in some way or other. It's not fun killing a beautiful fish, but we will eat him and there'll be nothing wasted.
Sailfish poked him in the foot.
Oh.
Blood spurted everywhere. Rip out the deck, put in a new deck.
I missed a big chunk
I
there.
saw there, yeah.
And buy from the shops.
Can we have sushi please for lunch?
Yes, sushi cut.
Make nice blades, and then the leftovers can be sushi. I want some of that fish now.
Is it good?
Yum, yum, yum.
Michael and Reghardt loved catching those fish, and we all enjoyed eating sushi after. I have to admit, I was terrified the cockpit and cushions would never be the same, but I found not a single gut or speck of blood when Michael finished cleaning up. So the monitor wind vane was steering us perfectly downwind, and we eventually pulled out the Genoa to stop all of the flopping of the sail that happens on a rolling downwind sail. We actually carry 3 running poles on Brickhouse. The biggest, longest one is stored on the track on the mast, and 2 others are stored on deck tied to the lifelines. The middle one is a spare, and the small one is just right for the staysail. Well, now I'm really nervous. 30, 40, maybe even 50 knots with crew relatively new to me. I really start worrying about what would be the best thing for my beloved boat.
That's almost funny. It's just red.
They both have obviously sailed in 30 and 40 plus knots of wind, having sailed the Cape of Storms as a hobby. I'd never seen how either one of them had performed, though, in such conditions. Would they be seasick? Would they reduce sail enough for Brickhouse, never having sailed her in more than 15 knots? And if we sailed into Lüderitz to anchor, would they know how to anchor my heavy boat in a strange harbor when they mostly kept their boat in a slip? Would they know what to do if we dragged in the dark?
Bit of a gale. Of course, you hope for the best, but it looks like it might even be stronger than we had anticipated. So we've got to to make a decision whether we're going into Lüderitz to attempt an anchorage or to keep going, as you can see, to keep going towards Walvis, where it just keeps getting stronger and stronger. So we don't have any real good options at the moment.
Except for to heave to right here for a week. That would
In the middle of the ocean.
That would help. The only thing that would help.
So it may be that we attempt in the morning to look at Lüderitz, and if it's a no-go, well then we just head out to sea again.
Yeah, I've never had to think about it before. You know, of all these decades sailing with Patrick, you know, I knew what he knew what I knew, he knew my comfort level, I knew his comfort level. But would these guys wake me up if they needed help or had a question? Would they just make it up? Would they figure it out? You know, I know they're pretty smart and they're good sailors, but they don't know Brickhouse very well at all. So, you know, I really didn't know what to expect on this leg. And God, it's so hard sailing without Patrick, without just knowing. I mean, the entire passage, you know, when I was off watch, which was, you know, 2/3 of the time, honestly, I'd lay in my bed, I'd be awake most of the time, I'd be listening to every strange noise, I'd be listening to every conversation.
Now I was faced with unparalleled fear that if I made the wrong decision, my boat could become one of the fleet that doesn't make it across.
So if we go into Lüderitz now, we get some protection, but then we, in order to get him back, we motor for 200 miles. Because then it becomes an extreme calm after that.
Yeah, right up against the coast, but we could go and pick up some wind. It looks like offshore there's wind. In fact, it looks like offshore there's a lot of wind. So
70 miles out to get some wind?
yeah, but it's better than 200 miles of motoring, isn't it?
It's like a whole day out and a whole day in, and then we
Better
motor.
than 200 miles of
And then
motoring.
we motor.
Potentially motoring some of the way back. That doesn't mean there's no wind there. If you can see any good options in this scenario, I'm keen to hear.
Michael is a better sailor than I am, understands the whole sailing bit more than I do. But I do have 13 years of experience sailing, and I know, you know, when the boat seems to be working harder, there's more stress on the boat than there should be, just when something sounds wrong. And I'm sure Michael felt pretty questioned, and I'm sure Reghardt wasn't quite sure who to look at for the final say, and that made things a little bit awkward.
So Rebecca's throwing an option of heaving to for the next week.
That's not going to happen.
The option is if we get into Lüderitz, by Monday it fades off.
Monday.
Yeah,
That's like 2 days after.
yeah. And then there's a big kind of flat spot all the way to Walvis Bay. So we'd have to get back out and pick up some wind again. Go to the northwest of Walvis and then potentially motor in maybe up to 100 miles or 80 miles. That's if the wind just dies down. I doubt it will. I think there'll always be something. And Brickhouse sails in a sniff of a wind. So It's just a question of whether we can get into Lüderitz safely, drop anchor, and figure out what we're going to do there.
But what's it looking like our chances getting in tomorrow morning?
Well, that we'll have to assess from 100 or 200 meters outside of the harbour.
But the wind can be 10 knots more.
Yeah.
10 knots less.
It
the
can
sea
be.
can be a meter higher. It can be a meter smaller.
Probably what it means is the earlier we get there, the better to assess it before the wind starts. It always picks up during the day when it's blowing southeast. So
maybe then we must try and get the small head sail out, port side.
See if we can get an extra knot out of it at least.
Reghardt and Michael were enthusiastic to understand my apprehension about the two poor options ahead of us. So instead of trying to explain, I let Reghardt take a seat and learn more about predict wind on the chart plotter. It seemed like Reghardt and Michael preferred to go to Lüderitz, and truthfully I probably did too. But I, more than anyone in the world, wanted what was best for my boat first and foremost.
Let's see,
right where we are, or in Lüderitz?
Speed, right here we are, 17, gusting 25, that's probably what we have.
Well, we can assume that is going to pick up later. So if the same phenomenon happens tomorrow morning, we get it early and we've got 10 knots less wind.
So I waited and hoped we could all come to an agreement about what to do without compromising what was absolutely the safest thing to do.
But just as it seems to be over-predicting, right now we don't have what it's telling us we've got.
Well, right now it says we should have 17 to have that.
I thought you just said it was saying it was
17.
Substantially higher.
And there's a shortcut that we can take. If the point is here, we come around the point. We either come through there, which are like 25 foot, but it says...
Yeah, I know, we don't want to do that.
Brakes. So absolutely, we don't want to brake, so
Especially
we might
if it's
as
not
well
right.
go around there, stay north of that, and then we come through this south cardinal marker, north cardinal marker.
I'm so not used to sharing the navigation on Brickhouse. Patrick never really did that.
And I say we don't, if the wind's pumping, I say we don't go in here, we go like here, so that if we drag out to sea.
Yeah, exactly.
I found it difficult to know when to just let the guys run the boat and when, as an experienced cruiser and the owner, to step in. This caused the captain some trouble too, as he wanted to keep the crew happy but make the best decisions as the captain.
So we've got about 20 knots of wind coming from the southeast, and it's predicted to just keep on picking up. So currently we've got the Genoa out on a pole, and we are doing a steady 5, maybe 5.5 knots of boat speed over ground. So we want to get towards the approach to Lüderitz as early as possible before the wind actually picks up to its full strength. So we're going to pull out the smaller Genoa, the little stay sail, and goose wing directly towards Lüderitz to make as best speed as we can. And so while we've got daylight hours, we want to push and get us as close to Lüderitz as we possibly can. The forecast for further up the coast, if we bypass Lüderitz, the forecast for Walvis Bay is even worse, 40 to 50 knots of wind. So we're hoping we can get into Lüderitz and ride this one out by Monday. It's due to abate a little bit, and then we can head off to Walvis.
So the guys went to work on pulling out the staysail on the other side of the boat to hopefully get another knot out of the boat while the wind was still manageable. That would get us to Lüderitz by morning. We only wanted to go in if we had a little bit of time before the bad weather hit. Otherwise, we'd keep going. Well, as usual, at the end of the day, the wind picked up, this time to nearly 40 instead of the low 30s that we had grown accustomed to. So we rolled in the pulled-out Jenny and sailed quite nicely with just the pulled-out staysail. One thing I've learned from these guys that I actually like much better than how Patrick did it is how they attach the poles to the sails. Patrick used to attach the jaws of the pole directly to the loop of line on the sail itself. When a squall approached, it was always a major fire drill for Patrick to run forward and unattach the jaws and then quickly come back to furl the sail with the poles banging away. Michael and Reghardt ran the sheets through the jaws of the pole and then ran forward-aft guys, fixing the poles in place, while the head sail or the staysail could be partially or completely furled quite quickly. This, in the end, turned out to be a much better setup. I was skeptical when they first did this, and I still find it so difficult to believe that anything could be better than how Patrick did it. It's a concept I struggle with every single day, and it's really quite troublesome in my relationship with both the crew and the captain, as you can all well imagine. Seriously though, for those of you who may believe this is all a fairy tale, and Mr. Right, Mr. Sailorman, just came along and we sailed away happily ever after, think again. How could I ever just seamlessly and effortlessly sail away with a new captain and not have some major obstacles? A lot of awesome things are happening between us and in our lives right now, but a lot of really difficult hurdles are being tripped over, and some bruises and scarring to both of us along the way.
And you know, in my head, I know it's impossible for anybody to fill his shoes. You know, I'm not looking for somebody to fill his shoes. It's really my job to fill Patrick's shoes, if anybody's, and I can feel him with me every single day, pointing things out to me and making me think about things. When push comes to shove, when you've sailed with somebody for so long, you see what he does, you see how he maintains things, you see how he fixes things, you see how he does things. That the boat always comes first, way before the fun. All of the work gets done before the fun gets done. And, you know, I thought that having somebody that has fun first and then fixes the boat might be more my style. But it's very difficult now because I know why it should be. You know, as much as I'd like to play first, you know, I've just come to expect such, like, things getting fixed before I know they're broken. Things being maintained before I ever dreamt that it was time to maintain them again. I always have Patrick in the back of my mind. I need to learn to be able to take care of this boat completely by myself because, you know, just like I lost Patrick unexpectedly, I will probably lose Michael, probably in a different way. And I have to be ready to take care of this boat 100% myself. You know, Patrick worked on this boat so hard the last year that he was alive. He made sure everything was perfect. The last weekend that he was healthy, we actually had this boat hauled out and he was fixing one more thing before we crossed the Atlantic in a few days, just to make sure everything was perfect. He left me the boat, probably the biggest statement of his love his whole life to me, was that he left me that boat in perfect condition. Even the bilges are dry now. The bilges have not been dried for 20 years. He even figured that one last little piece out before he passed. And so to me, I feel this huge responsibility to keep the boat that way and to not let anybody put a dent in it, a scratch, a stain. Yeah, it's weighing really huge on me, and that's really affecting my relationship and probably always will with any captain that I ever have come on this boat. You know, many of you said, oh, Patrick would want you to sail on. But honestly, when we talked about it over the last few years of his life, he always said to me, if anything happens to me, sell this boat because I know you won't maintain it the way that it should be maintained. And it's like I have this desire maybe to show him that he's wrong and that I can maintain this boat, I can keep this boat going, I can take responsibility for this boat being seaworthy and ready to cross oceans. And here I am crossing an ocean. If you are wondering what's in the background here, I'm actually completing the video while here in St Helena. So we have made it the second leg of the trip too, and that's what the next video will be about. We've learned a heck of a lot about each other, good and bad. Yeah, I'll have more news for you next time. My love for this boat is going to make it very hard for my love life in the future, whether it be Michael or somebody else. And it's the big struggle I have ahead.
So on a more technical note, for those who don't like to hear this sappy stuff, tell me what's wrong with this picture. We started making less than a straight course with monitor wind vane. Can you see what's wrong? This pulley on the vane control shaft has what should be a continuous line on it, which is always kept under tension to prevent slippage. This had come loose and fallen off. Hence the air vane gradually was changing its setting as the boat rolled back and forth and would take us slightly off course. We only discovered this when we started going a lot off course.
I just sat and watched the wind vane for a while, and I could see that the top of the wind vane was falling off. Every time we rolled back and forth, the wind vane would turn, the air vane itself would turn a little bit, and then we'd rock back and it would go back. And the black tension pulley didn't have the rope on it, the tension rope on it, the steering rope. And we had just been, you know, turning the black wheel. We hadn't even been paying attention to the rope that on boats with longer transoms, you'd have to use the line to turn the pulley. Because it's so close, we just turn the pulley. And I realized that that rope had fallen off, and I put it back on, and voila, everything was working again. Fred had just said to me in Cape Town that wind vanes are just common sense, And so it might be tough for a woman to understand. Only somebody in his 70s could say such a thing these days, and get away with it. It kind of made me feel better that, yeah, maybe as the woman with less common sense, that I was able to figure it out. That was a confidence builder. You may not be able to leave those blue jobs to somebody someday. You might not be able to leave the pink jobs to somebody someday. They're all gonna sit squarely in your lap if you're the one left holding the cards. Yeah, you're the lucky one. I was the lucky one. I survived COVID. He didn't. And glad to have the problems that I have, because at least I have problems. At least I'm alive. At least I'm breathing. Learn every card in that whole deck. The reality is, I had my jobs and he had his, and we really did very little cross-pollination. You know, I've had to fill in a lot of the gaps, a lot of the holes, and I really have to watch Michael very carefully to learn the parts that I never really learned, so that I can really take care of this boat 100%. There's so much I don't know, there's so much I need to learn. Before we left, you know, I said, I'm going to go in and do an engine check. Even though I don't truly know what I'm looking at, I'm going to look for leaks. I'm going to look for loose connections electrically. I'm just going to look for anything that looks wrong to me. You know, so even though I don't know much about engines, it should be obvious to me when something's wrong. I even went so far as to take off the caps of the dual Reghardt fuel filters that we have. And unfortunately, I put one back on wrong. So when Michael went in to do his engine check, who's really the one that knows more about engines than I do, he found diesel was leaking out of the top of it, which could have been a bad situation. So it's really good, you know, when your husband's doing engine checks before departure and during a passage, that you just go in and ask him, you know, what are you looking for? What are you doing? What are you checking for? So that if you ever have to do it, have some idea of what to look for. I really wish I'd watched him more.
Rough night. Sea state is pretty miserable on the surface here, and it's predicted to keep getting worse. So we've been bumped around all evening. Still not altogether that unpleasant. The boat's been pretty dry. We've had a couple of knocks, and we reduced sail yesterday to a small little stay sail, and that's pushing us along quite nicely at 6 or 7 knots. And we've got Namibia off on the starboard beam to the east of us, the Skeleton Coast, which, as it's notoriously named. So we're about 7 miles offshore and keeping a healthy distance. But up ahead of us, directly to the north, is the approach to Lüderitz, and we were hoping to go into Lüderitz this morning. But the wind is just predicted to keep getting worse, and we'll be on an anchorage that is probably quite safe, but we don't know it. We have an option to bypass any stress or potential risk to boat life and limb, and just keep going northwards towards Walvis Bay, which is another 2 days sail. Another advantage of that is on Monday the southeasterly wind seems to fade off along the coast, and we may end up having to motor to Walvis Bay if we linger too long in Lüderitz. So to me, the benefits of attempting to pick up a mooring ball or whatever's waiting for us over there in this wind, and running the risk of dragging anchor if the wind does get much worse. When we get there, we'll make a judgment call about 7 miles off of the entrance to Lüderitz.
We have 25 or 30 knots of wind from behind. It's actually pretty comfortable. I've never seen the sea so nice and 30 knots of wind. Head sail out like just a little tiny baby sheets, both pulled out, going 5 or 6 knots. We're going to have this keep going until Monday. It might get a little worse than this, maybe another 10 more knots. And so our two choices are to keep going and take advantage of this nice wind, or we can go into Lüderitz and sit on a boat for the weekend, wait to be cleared on Monday so we can get off. That's the lowdown. So which bad choice should we choose? Bad choice 1 or bad choice 2?
I really shouldn't complain about bad choices. Bad choice would have been to not have left the dock, not sailed away, stayed in Cape Town paralyzed with fear of the unknown new world. The waves and wind were beautiful. The weather was getting warmer, at least during the day. We were all getting along well, caught up on sleep, well fed, and on our way better than this. I mean, really, what could any of us complain about? I mean, Reghardt had 3 weeks off from work. I was finally on my way to complete my circumnavigation. And Michael, well, he's the captain of the most beautiful and capable sailboat in the
We
world.
didn't pop in at Lüderitz. The wind and weather was continuing to deteriorate. We want to take advantage of these winds to get us to Walvis Bay. We should be in about 20 hours time, I imagine. But we just had an amazing meal. Rebecca cooked up some of the tuna that I caught 2 days ago and boiled some potatoes and carrots. Absolutely amazing, and we're all feeling really good.
Not to say that there weren't any meltdowns.
When I made my cup of coffee, guess what happens?
What?
Mike would change the whole fucking sail plan of the boat. That's 30 minutes. I'm just trying to make a coffee.
You need some kind
Oh,
of
my coffee is fucked.
container to keep that bloody thing warm.
Oh, it's not warm, it's over extraction. It's very technical.
So what's going on out here with all the noise besides the coffee?
What noise? I'm asleep. I don't know what you're talking about. Now we're sailing at 4 knots. Boo-hoo.
Boo-hoo. Are we going the right way?
Fuck the right way. We're going somewhere. We're going sailing.
Oh shit, I just want to get into port. I don't want to go sailing.
Exactly, me too. This fucker wants to sail all day long.
We're going to be beating into it.
Because we're
the
going
last
due
while.
west now again.
But it makes a lot more sense to sail than to motor into it for 50 miles, eh?
20 miles.
50
20
more miles. It was 50 miles before it got dark last night.
20 miles to go.
Please don't say 50 miles beating into it.
I just sail super fast, I lose track. Okay,
Maybe I
this
should
little
turn
thing,
off
just
the
hold
fan.
on, I want to just unwind this back.
Sure. I shine.
Relax
Please
with your
don't.
coffee. I see my tea didn't materialize.
Not when you do this while you say, come make up a coffee, chill. And Reghardt! Reghardt! I don't mind helping, you know that. I had a simple request every morning.
Let the man have his coffee.
Got to get up early.
No, I don't. Fuck that. I was up early, actually. I was up at 7 for my 8 shift. Planning.
Puts the kettle on, goes back to bed.
Let me now. This is a good crew I have. I'm going to make you a cup of tea. How about that?
Wonderful. Well,
Is it raining?
Fucking cold outside.
Cold out
it's a
there.
lovely day. Beautiful.
Would you like a good cup of tea? I'd
Please, love one.
There we go.
But finish your coffee, please.
It's fucked, as I told you.
Okay, can
Over
I have a sip of it? Oh, you're not having any more?
I've extracted. It's completely fucked. I'll have to make another one.
Okay, here you go.
Crisis.
What is over extracted?
Over extracted means in the coffee.
cold.
If you're gonna let me speak. Bitter, and the flavor all goes to cactus. And now because it's because it's cold as well. So it's cold, bitter, and over extracted.
Port control, this is sailing vessel Brickhouse. Sailing vessel Brickhouse, do you copy? Over. That's the third call, no response.
You try on 12. Yeah.
Port control, this is sailing vessel Brickhouse. Brickhouse, do you copy? Over. Good afternoon, Captain. This is sailing vessel Brickhouse. We are near the Pelican Port Spitboy, requesting permission to proceed to the Yacht Club Basin. Over.
Brickhouse, copy that. Where you coming from? Last port of call at American Port, over.
Port control, sailing vessel Brickhouse. We are 3 people on board. Last port was Cape Town. We are in transit from Cape Town to St Helena and requesting permission to stop over in Walvis Bay Harbour at the Yacht Club. Over.
Brickhouse, copy. Proceed safely. How many meters? What's your length overall, over?
Captain, our length is 12 meters overall. Over.
Copy, thank you. Proceed safely, please, over.
Thank you, Captain. We are keeping a visual, standing by on channel 12 out.
So we just have to get around this spit buoy up here, and then we can proceed down. The big question is always, do we go through the big ship anchorage to save a mile's time, or do we go to the channel and come in the channel? Since we have some light and we're sort of short on light, trying to get to the Yacht Club Basin before it gets dark. We're going to swing through the anchorage, look for this later.
Yeah, there are a couple of hazards that are unlit. There are a couple of cranes that are marked for us to aim at, also unlit. The shipwreck in the harbour, also unlit, but there are some masts sticking out the water and numerous fishing blue barrels that demarcate a fish farm, also unlit. So as there is daylight, we should be good. Let's give it a go.
Are we taking a shortcut? Is it okay if I turn straight after that? Thank you, man. Guys, cheers.
Cheers everyone.
to a new anchorage, a new country, a new place, with many more to come.
And many more miles under our belt, and happy anchorages, and great sailing with Reghardt.
Cheers.
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 To many more.
Meneer.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to drink it all?
Bye,
Not
donkey. Bye, donkey.
Yeah. Been great sailing, brother.
Special.
Thanks for all the help.
7 days, absolutely.
You're welcome anytime.
Yeah. Oh,
That's very nice.
it is very good.
Very, very nice. Time for the bottle of wine.
Hey, what's going on here?
Too much alcohol.
Oh, my.
What are you making?
I'm making nothing. I'm chopping garlic. Ginger, onion, peppers, the last of our fresh mushrooms. A lot of garlic.
Looks like the bowels of a cow to me.
What would you guys feel like? Because we got all of them. We got leftover pasta that I think should just get thrown into it because we can. Otherwise, we've got to throw it away. And there are potatoes. Please take 5. Take a
Can you
bunch.
put none in mine?
No,
Just have all veggies.
no, that can't be done. No, you can pick it out of
This
it
is not
once it's
even
made.
healthy.
But the process is such that preparation is done.
Here I was thinking we were going to eat more healthy. We're eating meat and potatoes still.
Yeah.
He did say something about if he doesn't have a steak tonight, he's going to go kill a cow.
Yeah. We don't want to be arrested yet for cattle rustling on our first night. So
Fortunately, it's very hard for me to get off the boat at the moment, so I think the cows are safe for a while.
the livestock is safe. Rest
Cows are
assured.
safe. By tomorrow, after a quart of beer or 5 quarts of beer, those cows are not safe at all. If they better run, I'll have my pocket knife in hand.
We made sure Reghardt got his favorite drink at the bar the next day. The cows are safe.
Now what are you
Assault
drinking,
tape.
Reghardt?
A bikkie rooi wyn.
A what?
A bikkie rooi wyn. Little bit of red wine. Tiny bit of red.
Only a tiny bit. And how much of this bottle is left?
Enough. And there's more.
Not very much. We only began 5 minutes ago.
Can anyone hear the wind howling in the rigging?
No, I hear the wind generator.
Oh, is that the wind generator?
Yeah.
We're dragging towards the tub, Reghardt.
What is this concoction?
Chorizo sausage speciality, huh? Got a little bit of leftover pasta from the other night and some great freshly done potatoes and olive oil and so in there. So that's it, it's all ready to go, huh?
Okay.
Have a German feast. That's where we must go. Swakopmund.
Whoops.
More stains on the table. Oh dear goodness.
God help me. Turmeric now. Look at that brand new pan. Most expensive pan I ever owned.
It's a
Just
wonderful thing.
so that this man right here could
It's
cook
a wonderful
me
thing.
fabulous meals.
Look at that.
It's already made amazing meals, hasn't it?
It has been
Worth every penny, I think.
a wonderful thing.
What is the name of that wine?
Nymphenane.
A little
Very
bit of South
nice.
African puns there.
Simple as that. Very simple.
It's not fair. I want to be big like you someday.
Welcome to the real fucking world. Hey, it's not supposed to be fair, is it? Jesus Christ. You said it must be fair.
Just keep eating good old South African beef.
How boring is that?
Well, in this case, what have we got? Italian sausage. Or
Italian.
chorizo. Is that Italian? It is
I
that.
think
Might be Spanish. Doesn't matter, it's all good.
In that area.
Thank you for cooking, Michael.
It's a pleasure.
Mm,
Thank
For
you for
hours.
providing everything that goes around the meal, huh?
all good stuff.
It's all good stuff. Great stuff. Okay, bon appetit, everybody.
Bon appetit, Capricorn.
So after a good night's rest, we went ashore in our dinghy. But the only thing we could buy was a cup of coffee. No beer, no steaks, no cows. So we decided to go to Swakopmund, about a half hour to the north. Of course, when you leave your boat behind in a new anchorage at anchor, it's always hard to relax 100%. You always worry that the tide will change or wind will pick up and your anchor will drag.
Carrot cake and
Cheesecake.
cheesecake. Any good? And
Both are.
iced coffee. Reghardt organizing flights home.
It's easy to dive for lobsters here.
Yeah.
Like far out.
No, right on the pier, right
Right on
underneath
here.
Yeah.
It wasn't too rough, huh?
It's so shallow, you just go down and grab on and hold.
Michael used to live here for a year as a younger man.
Snorkeling.
So we spent the day sightseeing, having snacks, and looking in the shops, walking down this long pier. Walking and walking and walking.
Boating life without a bar, without an Uber, without a bicycle.
Michael was missing his Bucky and his Mercedes-Benz at this point. One thing that didn't change in Namibia was people still went fishing to get food, and people were still hungry.
Where are you boys from?
As we are from Swakopmund, Namibia.
Swakopmund, Namibia?
Yes.
That's your home?
Yes.
Where's your home?
Our home is in DRC.
DRC? You're a long way from home.
Yes.
Why?
Because we are very hungry. We are very hungry. Then we just came to Sula, something to go and eat for the night with our grandmother.
Okay, with your grand...
Yes.
Yeah, family is here.
Yes.
So you come to visit family?
Yes. Then we just came to ask money to buy for them bread to eat.
Yeah.
At least at the inn.
Yes, sir.
Hey?
Before they sleep.
Okay, you must go stand there. So why are you not at school?
We are going to school
Eh?
tomorrow. We are going to school tomorrow.
Oh,
So
one
we
day
come-
school, one day no school.
Yes, so we come to Sula some bread for tomorrow to even go to school. Sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Where's your school?
Our school is academic primary school
Okay. Are you playing soccer, football?
Football.
All of you?
Yes.
All four, five?
to play. Skeleton boys also.
Skeleton boys.
Yes, we just call like that.
Are you brothers?
No.
No brothers,
We're
just friends.
Yes.
Okay. How's things otherwise?
It's not.
It's not so great. Your parents, they're working? Your parents got jobs?
They are not working.
They don't have jobs, eh?
Yes.
Why not?
We don't know.
Is it COVID?
Maybe. Yes, COVID
It's that COVID thing, eh?
So meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's no shortage of food. Lots of fish. People are enjoying themselves at the beach. Not too many people are wearing masks. A few here and there. But life is pretty relaxed. It was a good sail up, but now it's time for the crew to head on home. It was kind of nice having crew to help out with the sail up. We definitely had more off-watch time, but I have to admit it was very difficult for me too. In 17 years of crossing oceans, I've never needed to accommodate crew. Everything Patrick and I did was natural. We didn't even have to think about it or talk about it. It really took a lot of getting used to, a lot of adjusting to have crew. I'm glad that from here on in it'll just be Michael and I. I'm looking forward to sailing to St Helena soon with him. Without a doubt, we're having our challenges, but we're having lots of rewards too. Life is always better when you're out sailing.